All right, you guys, come on in here. Come on in here. This is another episode of Girl, Is That Legal with your legal bestie. Today, we are talking about the owner of Turkey Leg Hut, Lindell Price. He goes by Lynn, has been indicted for arson, y'all. Come on in here. Tell us where you're watching from. Got to stir my drink up, y'all. Woo! I had to run and do this story. I was doing something else in another part of town. I was busy today. And my girlfriend sent me the link that said this happened. Let me tell you something. I am Creole, but I'm not psychic. But you think that maybe I am a little bit. Oh, thank you, Nick, for joining. She said, I exited another live to get here. Let me tell you, I have been covering this for a minute. I'm going to move this light. I'm so sorry, guys. It's going to be annoying. I've been covering this for a minute because these are my neighbors. This light is driving me crazy. There you go. That's a little better. These are my neighbors. And I felt this whole story was suspicious for a minute. Now, first, let me give you a backstory on this couple. So who I have here, this is Lynn, and this is his estranged but current wife. She goes by Kia. So the two of them are in the middle of a pretty messy divorce because he was allegedly violent. We're saying allegedly, but there have been a number of allegations over the years. Now, I want to give you a little bit of backstory, and then we've got some documents, honey. We are going to go through some actual court documents, and then we're going to kind of break it all down here. Make sure drop your questions, any questions you have in the chat. I'll try to highlight them as I'm going through and then answer them. So Lynn and Kia had been together for a number of years, and the gist of it is he has been married. She is his second or third wife. I believe third. She is his third wife. Multiple women prior to her had made allegations of abuse by him. There are at least two other times that he had been charged with forms of domestic violence for assaulting other women that he had dated prior to her. Then he gets with her. He's allegedly abusive to her as well, and she decides to file for divorce. Now, what was interesting is they are the co-owners of, I say co-owners because this is Texas, I'll get into that, of what was known as the Turkey Leg Hut. The Turkey Leg Hut was nationally known as having amazing smoked turkeys and having this fantastic recipe, etc. But what ended up happening is although they were married, he was never listed on any of the business documents. So when the divorce was going through, his position is, hey, we didn't have a prenup, and that it was a business decision between she and I to not put my name on anything because of the fact that he was a felon. He was a felon. He had some drug convictions, felonies for things we're going to get into here, etc. And so he wasn't on the documents, but he was like, we're going to let the court thing run its course. Well, during the course of this, allegedly, it began to get messy between the two of them. Why? Because there was an anonymous call that was made to the health department that was complaining about different things that had been going on for years. Like people were aware of them. It ended up resulting in the anonymous call to the health department was shortly after she kicked him out of the restaurant and would not allow him on the premises any longer. Now, the allegation from her side is that he mismanaged the funds, which resulted in them needing to go into bankruptcy. When I tell you, literally, I'm a neighbor. When I tell you that, like, you can't park on certain parts of our street because there used to be a line out the door, up the street, blah, 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 blah. That was the case. There was always people in there. And then during the course of this divorce, all that was going on amongst the two of them, morale for the workers went down. Certain workers weren't getting paid, blah, 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 blah. Someone also said in the state, she said he was in prison from my understanding. That's correct. When she started the restaurant that was at a different location, he was serving prison time at the time. But he could have been on the paperwork, but they are right. You cannot get an SBA loan if a felon owns 20% or more. Like if a felon is a co-owner of the business. Anybody who tried to get a PPP loan would know. I had some people who, if you had with that PPP loan application, if it had a box on there that said, were you indicted or convicted of a felony within the last 5 years? If you check yes, you didn't qualify for that PPP. So thank you for clarifying that, IMO. That was true. But because they were married, to some extent, it didn't matter. What did matter is that ultimately the reason that they shut down and could not reopen actually ended up being because of the anonymous call to the health inspectors and the violations that were discovered. Now, these violations were discovered after they were already in bankruptcy. So what had happened was divorce starts, then allegedly she goes over the books and it's like, where is the money? This money has been mismanaged. She files for bankruptcy. Now, I thought that was a brilliant strategy from the perspective of a divorce, because he is only entitled to 50% of the value of the business. Therefore, if you go into a bankruptcy, that's like showing the business ain't worth nothing, meaning you don't have to give him nothing. You follow me? But it sounds like he got hipped to that plan and said, well, hell, if I ain't getting nothing, you ain't getting nothing either. Allegedly. Because this anonymous call was placed to the health department. Health department found about 34 violations. Now, and these weren't minor violations. Unfortunately, some of these violations were going to be so expensive to cure that the bankruptcy trustee herself and himself said, oh, we can't just make this a reorganization. This has to be a termination of the entity. You know, there's two types of bankruptcies. There's the one where you can just reorganize and then reopen later. And then there's the other one where it's like, It's my understanding one of the violations was that the smoker, whatever type of smoker that they use, was too close to a wall, which basically would have required for them to rebuild a section of the kitchen. Now, they don't own the building. They were asked to buy the building years ago by the owners. The owners are an Asian couple. I know them too. They're my neighbors. And I'm nosy. Asian couple asked him, I want to say around 2016, 2017 or so, hey, would you like to buy the building? They didn't buy the building. Do you know what he bought instead? Cars. A lot of them. He do them car shows with Rick Ross, that's his buddy, and Kevin Hart, et cetera, et cetera. They didn't buy the building, honey. And that building wasn't just, they didn't buy the building. They bought cars and houses. They bought everything but their building. So unfortunately, when that chain, those kinds of, and they bought food trucks. Yes, somebody said they did. They bought food, and food trucks is an investment. Anytime you can extend your business, that makes sense. That's an investment. But it's just unfortunate that at the time, now I'm going to assume perhaps they didn't have the credit. You know, there's a variety of reasons. Maybe that wasn't the priority at the time. But when you have such a stellar business like that and you don't buy the ground that you're sitting on, what happens is when that lease is going up, that landlord is going to quote some exorbitant amount of rent because they know you got it. To where, baby, you should have bought it. If you hadn't bought it, you should have. So anyhow, one of those requirements of things that had to be repaired would have required so much money that it basically, they couldn't afford it. Plus, they were owing other people who had invested in the restaurant hundreds of thousands. Those people were not getting paid back on their investment, blah, blah, blah. So they did have to go bankrupt. Fun fact, or unfun, I had received calls from a number of people that were owed money by them who had said, well, is there anything we can do to get paid? And I would do private consultations on the matter. And I thought, well, one of the things when you're in bankruptcy, assets can be sold. And I said, well, why don't you guys think about forcing them to sell the trademark? Would you be forcing them to sell the trademark was one idea that I had. Because the trademark would be worth something. Anybody who had any desire to ever make barbecue or turkey legs could own the trademark and then literally open up a turkey leg hut. Because in bankruptcies before, I used to represent Joe's Crab Shack. I defended them in frivolous slip and fall cases throughout DFW. And then when they went for bankruptcy, Landry's purchased the trademarks, the licensing, all of that, so they could operate. So I said, well, what about that? I went and I checked the trademark. Do you know these people don't even own their trademark? Bring my gavel up here. They did not even own their trademark, y'all. I said, well, hell, they really don't have nothing. So they don't own their real estate and they don't own their trademark. So now I own it, but that's another story. That's a little fun fact for another day. I applied for it because I said, well, somebody, somebody might want some turkey legs one day and open up things. So anyway, we'll see how that goes. I keep y'all posted. So I got the trademark application going. Anyway. Now, back to, Cynthia said roll on the floor. I did. I was drunk one day, minding my business. I sure did. Let me go. Let's see how the trademark's doing before we go to the rest of the business. Hold on. Let's see how that. It takes a while. I was drunk one day after brunch and we was talking about it. And I said, this is crazy. Hold on. Let's go, US. Let's see. I said, this is crazy, guys. How did they not own it? And so really I was drunk and I just pulled out my little credit card and I said, I've wasted more money on high heels. Oh, here we go. I said, yeah, I wasted more money on high heels. I just go ahead and give them the $300 right here. Here we go. There you go. That's a turkey leg hut. We're going to see how it goes. I'll license it back to them. Either one of them will. There we go. See? Okay, so y'all see that there? So this was what originally was there. It was dead. They applied and then it got abandoned. Okay, turkey leg hunts. It was so cute. It was so cute. So I was like, okay, y'all can sell it. And literally, my thought was sell it, use it to help recoup to some of the people who, you weren't able to pay. So now I'm like, okay. So I went ahead and I filed. You see, this is my name here, whatever, restaurant, bar services, blah, 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 whatever they want. And so my thought is that I can use this with my students. It's a teaching technique. I want to put on some online classes on trademark, stuff like that. And then perhaps we could do a licensing agreement where if someone else wants to open one and call it that, we're going to line up, listen to me, line up all the mom and pop shops that they owe, that they didn't pay back. I'm talking these people who, there were a lot of small business vendors who are basically almost forced into bankruptcy, if not were bankrupt, because the way these people did not pay them. So maybe we can use this, license it, and they get a portion of it. We can talk about something else. All right. So let's get back to the arson, the indictment. And pull this back down. Huh? So this is a cute little couple. Now, before I read the indictment, which we do have here, I just want to say, bitch, I told y'all last year, March of 2024, I made an Instagram reel and people are like, you're a hater. That. Well, I hate accurately. If you want to call me a hater, I hate accurately. This is the video. Here we go. This is a video that I had made that kind of broke it down. So this is going to give you some backstory, and then we're going to walk into today's indictment. Here we go. I'm going to play this clip for you. Now, this is what I did. It's called Turkey Leg Hut Set on Fire During Messy Divorce.
Coincidence or nah? So the turkey leg hut has been set on fire. Well, the office attached to the turkey leg hut has been set on fire. It's actually the wife, Slim, who owns it. The husband and wife are in the middle of a divorce. Part of her claims are not only abuse by him, but that he mismanaged the funds of the turkey leg hut. Well, where's all the paperwork kept that would support that? Likely in this office. In the office that you see here has been set on fire. What makes it wilder is this isn't the first time that the husband has been associated with arson. In fact, in 2005, he was found guilty of setting his second wife's house on fire. That's right, for arson. But in addition to setting his second wife's house on fire, he was embroiled in litigation with a man named Steve Rogers. Steve Rogers claimed that he helped co-found the Turkey Leg Hut, and pursuant to a contract that they had all signed, he was entitled to revenues of over $1 million that had been unpaid from the Turkey Leg Hut. In the middle of this litigation, Steve opened up a bar across the street from the Turkey Leg Hut, Bar 5015. In the middle of the night, it was set on fire. Now, they've never confirmed who did this, but there's video footage. Check it out. Let me know, do you think it's a coincidence that not once, not twice, but this is the third time that the owner of the Turkey Leg Hut's husband was involved in some type of dispute with someone that resulted in arson? Let me know in the comments. For more legal breakdowns, head over to my YouTube channel. Girl, is that legal on YouTube? Or follow.
See, I've been told y'all. Y'all need to tell people, share this on Facebook with your friends and the people at your church and everybody. I'm not psychic. I just know the law. Coincidence or not? We have now discovered that answer is officially no. So I'm going to read for you. I'm going to share with you the indictment. Here we go. I'm going to read the federal indictment. This is federal, y'all. They are not playing with his behind. Not today. Wait a minute. Hold on. Hold on. Let's get the other one back up. Let's get it back on up. There we are. Let's do that. Let's hear. All right. All right. So the feds have said, and this came out just today, y'all, hot off the press. Former turkey leg hut owner, because it is officially over. The bankruptcy has gone through. It does not exist. It says, or they blocked him out. It doesn't exist. There's not their stuff anymore. Y'all, it gets juicy. I'm gonna get back to it. Hold on, make sure I write this down. Okay. I don't know, God, because God don't play about his people now. All right. Former turkey leg hut owner indicted for arson. A 42-year-old Houston man has been taken into custody on charges of conspiracy to commit arson of a commercial building and conspiracy to use an interstate facility to commit arson of a vehicle. Lindell Lynn Price, former owner of Turkey Leg Hut, now owns the Oyster Hut, is set to make his initial appearance before the judge at 2 p.m. today. Okay, we just missed it. Also in custody is set to appear Armani Williams, 27, and John Lee Price, 39, probably his brother, both also of Houston. The indictment, which was returned April 8th and unsealed upon their arrest, alleges Price and others conspired to set fire to bar 5015. Now, if you know me, that's my Cheers bar. You can catch me there about once a week. And I'm going to tell you something. When this happened, I was devastated because I knew at 5015 was where I was going to find my husband. So when they blew that place up, I said, oh, Lord, I'm never going to get a husband. And here I am today. Well, I almost had one, but we know that story. Let's continue. It says the charges allege the owner of that bar was a former co-owner of the Turkey Leg Hut and Price's business partner. Yes, his name is Steve Rogers, which is what I referenced in the Instagram video that I just played for you guys. It says in early June 12th of 2020, Price had allegedly recruited a group which included Williams, John Price, and others. The charges allege Williams, John Price, and others were involved in pouring gasoline at the entrance ramp before igniting a fire at Bar 5015. Lynn Price later provided payment to them, according to the charges. So there is video footage of it. And in that footage, Lynn isn't there, but somebody looked like him. Apparently, it's probably his brother, John Price. When I rewatch that footage, because I watched it 11 times, you can see there's a tattoo on the arm. It said, set Price to him, to others, to set fire to. It says, prior to the arson, the indictment alleges that in April 2020, Lynn Price also paid John Price and others to set fire to a stolen blue 1975 Chevy Nova. This man loves fires. Lynn Price and others are charged with conspiracy to commit arson and face up to 20 years in federal prison, as well as a possible $250,000 maximum fine. And I would not be surprised if they were also ordered to pay restitution. Because when I tell you they blew this mother sucker up, literally into pieces. It says Lynn Price and John Price are also charged with conspiracy to use an interstate facility to commit arson of a vehicle and could receive another 5 years as possible punishment. The indictment remains sealed to those charged, but not as yet in custody, meaning there could be other people that would be involved too. It says the FBI and the Bureau of Firearms, Explosives, and Houston Arson Bureau conducted the investigation. The Harris County Constable's Office. And it says Sebastian A. Edwards and Carrie Fuller are prosecuting the case. So if y'all got any tips, send it on over to them. Check this out. Hold on, let me see. Okay. Hold on, let me see. Ooh. Explosion. Let me see if I can get you a better video of the explosion. Hold on. Yes. Yes, I gotcha. Here we go.
That we've been following for nearly a week. The explosion at a bar near the museum district that left behind a lot of debris. Investigators releasing.
Y'all see that? Look at that. Y'all see this? This is what it looked like. I was in there looking for a man. Okay, arson. So arson, great question, ECD says, is why is arson a federal crime? It's not. It's the fact that they use interstate commerce. When you use interstate commerce, that's when it could become federal. I have not obtained the final documents, but more than likely it'll mean something like perhaps the brother was in Louisiana, or one of the people that helped was in Louisiana, and they said, come on over from Louisiana, or come on over from this other state and come help me do this arson. It's some type of that, or maybe the money was wired from out of state into state. That's the kind of thing that would make it federal. But arson on its own is not federal. You'll see that because he was charged with another arson here in the state of Texas that was adjudicated by good old Harris County. When we're going to go through those documents shortly in a moment. All right. So let's keep listening. Let's listen. But this is what it looked like, y'all. I mean, he is good at what he does. He's good at them goddamn oysters, and he's good at blowing shit up. Here we go.
Investigators.
Oh, y'all, them oysters too. But I only go to eat them oysters on a date because them suckers are $43 a dozen. And I can't go get some now that I told the story. But I mean, might need one of y'all to run up there and get them for me so he don't actually poison me or something. Anyway.
Releasing this surveillance video of the people who they say.
Okay, watch.
Caused the.
I want you to see. I feel like one of these two guys has a tattoo on the arm. Check it out.
Explosion. Our Vincent Crivelli has more.
Good afternoon. Authorities say the suspects caused hundreds of thousands of dollars in damage. They were caught on camera, and investigators need your help to track them down. Take a look at this compelling surveillance video. It shows four suspects pouring out gas on tables, chairs, and the deck at Bar 5015 on June 12th.
One of the males pours a trailer.
There we go. I'm going to get that off the screen. Here we go. Let's scroll it back. I mean, when I tell you, it's like, if you ever come to Houston, you got to go to Bar 5015. If you see me, buy me a drink or say hello. One of the two. Or maybe a little hookah.
Gas on tables, chairs, and the deck at Bar 5015.
I mean, it's so intentional. Like, they didn't even try to make it seem like it was an accident. I will get into the basis of the argument in just a moment. I know because I read the legal papers.
Okay. On June 12th.
One of the males pours a trailer of ignitable liquids down the ramp. He then proceeds to light it.
Now, that's the one. I don't know what Lynn's brother looks like, but he big. Like, Lynn is a big guy. He's probably like 6'4".
Which causes the ignition of all the accumulated fumes underneath the deck to explode.
Houston Fire Chief Sam Pena.
The damage that was caused, if you saw the debris field that morning, was significant.
Surrounding properties were also affected, and the bar suffered nearly $1 million in damage.
I believe.
And let me say this, y'all. As y'all watch this, what's really messed up about it is a lot of people were accusing Steve Rogers of blowing up his own place. They said, oh, maybe Steve Rogers did it because it was pandemic. And, you know, during the pandemic, a lot of restaurants lost a lot of money because they had to reduce the number of people they could serve, blah, blah, blah. So people thought he did it. They thought he committed insurance fraud. So I'm happy for him that this is redeeming his reputation, that hell no, he did not do this to his own business, because that business, because of how brilliantly he structured it, which is why he's been in the industry doing this for 30, 40 years now, it was indoor, outdoor. So while most Houston places did have to shutter or dramatically reduce their capacity, because he had outdoor space, which is why you see all the wood there, because that's the deck component of it, he was not losing money like everybody else was. And that's where the jealousy came in. I'll get to that.
They were trying to burn the thing down, and for whatever reason, it didn't happen, but it did cause an explosion.
Right now, local agencies are coordinating with the FBI and ATF to track down those responsible.
Message to the suspects is, again, we're going to have every resource that we have available here, as well as our partners from the ATF that are partnering us in this investigation, and we're going to bring that to bear to ensure that we solve this incident, and we make the point that this is not going to be tolerated in this community.
Authorities are asking anyone with information to call Crime Stoppers at 713-222-TIPS. And investigators believe that the suspects were so close to the explosion that they may have suffered burns. Reporting downtown, Vincent Crivelli, KPRC, Channel 2 News.
Pretty incredible video.
All right. So guys, so the underlying dispute started here. It started because if you want to open a successful bar, club, anything like that in the city of Houston, you go to Steve. Steve was doing bar consulting. He was doing nightlife consulting. You go to Steve. If you want to be successful, you go to Steve. He is one of the great, people that you do that with. And so when the Turkey Leg Hut wanted to move from, I think they started out as like a food truck. They started as a smaller venue over on Washington Avenue, which is like a clubby area within Houston. When they wanted to be the store for like what they are today at that location, they consulted with Steve. Steve came in as a partner, and there were certain things that Steve was responsible for. Steve created the infrastructure, policies, procedures, some very invaluable things. When he did that, part of the agreement is that there would be a form of profit share. Well, Lynn was very difficult to work with. And I can say that because I've known of multiple people who have tried to do deals with Lynn in the past. And Lynn has spent a lot of time in prison, and you can tell. I say that to say from people who have done business with him, they say it's very difficult. He approaches things with a prison mentality that, oh, this person is trying to play me. You're trying to get over on me, In the end, however each of their business acumen worked, it was not a relationship that was salvageable. So Steve was pulling out of the business. He said, just pay me my share, pay me what I've earned, and I'm going on my way. Lynn said, I ain't giving you shit. And Steve said, I can't work with you. I won't work with you. Steve opened the bar across the street. That was not a FU. My understanding is that was something that Steve had always planned to do. In fact, I think the two coexisted at the same time. They have totally different demographics. So the Turkey Leg Hut is a restaurant. You go there to eat with your family, etc. 5015 has always been, I used to go there for brunch. I knew of them as a brunch spot. It had always been like a place that you go for a day party. It's two different demographics. One supports the other, goes in the other. Anyway, Steve filed a lawsuit for his share of whatever he was entitled to pursuant to their business agreement. And then after doing that, that's when miraculously his bar gets exploded during this phase. My little timing can be slightly over, but it was in the midst of them going back and forth, arguing over whether or not Steve was entitled to his component of the business pursuant to their written agreement. This ain't no ignorant business. They had a contract. And Steve was like, pay me pursuant to the contract. And he was like, I ain't get to do shit. He doesn't talk like that. He talks like this. He has like a high pitched voice. So it's more like, I don't want to do shit. I don't, like that. And guess what though? What happened in the lawsuit? Steve won. Steve won about $1 million. Steve Rogers, the owner of 5015, won about $1 million. So now they were really mad. And by they, I say Lynn. My understanding is that the wife photo that's in the photo, I put her up just because some people know them as an entity, right? She is not indicted, to be very clear. She is not involved with any of this criminal mess. It's none of that. I see her as a victim. The only thing she probably did wrong was marry him after she knew that there was records out there that he done whooped upside the head his prior two wives. I'm sure if she could do it again, she'd rethink that decision. But the point being, Steve actually won $1 million for their business dispute. And the business dispute is why the alleged arson happened. But hold on. Oh, somebody said the key ain't no better. Okay, well, I don't know personally. And someone said, I think Lynn was mad too because Steve had just remodeled 5015 and gave it a huge facelift. That's true. So the bar across the street, I mean, it wasn't as large. It didn't have the same capacity, but it's a vibe. And all of these are on the same street. So like I have an Airbnb and my Airbnb advertising was like walking distance to these. I had a lot of girls trips and parties because you literally just bar hop down the street and you just get happily drunk. But here's what I want to share. I want to share with you guys. Let's put some up. He has a history. So I pulled down some of the prior criminal records, and you need to read them. You need to read them. All right, this one that we're going to start with, I got two. I got this, and then I got the arson one. You need to read them. Somebody said they were both a mess. Val's late. So if you're just joining us, what we're talking about is the former owner of the turkey leg hut, Lynn Price, the husband, has now been indicted for arson for setting on fire a bar across the street while having a business dispute with that bar owner. And the bar owner, that bar is called 5015. That bar owner actually won approximately $1 million in a judgment and/or settlement pertaining to a civil dispute because that owner helped him open and launch the turkey leg hut. But what's important here is to remember, this ain't the first arson that he's been associated with. In 2005, he was charged with burning up some stuff from his prior wife, the second wife, not this lady. Then in 2020, he was barred 5015. And then twice, not once, but twice during a divorce dispute. Oh, who is that? Oh, somebody calling me from Baton Rouge. I hope they're cute. Anyway, twice during the divorce dispute, turkey leg hut was set on fire. The business office was set on fire, and then another office associated was also set on fire. We'll get on this. This is a, I want to show you this one. This is a, I'm going to make it bigger. Ooh. Okay, here we go. Put me over to the side. There we go. So this here is, he was charged with strangling his pregnant girlfriend at the time. So these are prior to him marrying the current wife. So this is, what was this dated? 2014, 2013. This is the probable cause affidavit. The charge is assault of a family member, impeding breathing. So it says, and I'm down on the probable cause section. It says, affiant, which means the police officer. Okay, no, sorry. Affiant Bartlett Charles, which is the cop, is a peace officer of the Houston Police Department. He has reason to believe and does believe that Lindale Price, hereafter called the defendant, committed the offense of assault, impending breathing, family violence in Harris County on or about November 19th of 2013. Defendant Price intentionally and knowingly assaulted the complainant, which is a woman named Candace Clement, hereinafter style complainant by strangulation and inflicting bodily injury. Y'all, now listen to these facts. It says, the complainant, this is the second paragraph, I'm jumping down. Complainant stated that the defendant Price assaulted her and she knows him by name and sight as her ex-boyfriend. Complainant stated that she and the defendant had got an apartment together. Complainant stated she became pregnant with his child, at which point he urged her to get an abortion. Complainant stated she found her own apartment because she didn't want to get the abortion, I guess, and let the defendant stay in there one night they had together. I've read another version of this, and it says one night. It says, complainant stated that on November 19th, she was at a nightclub located up the street, which is right up the street in Harris County, and saw the defendant there. Complainant stated that she approached the defendant about some unpaid bills, at which time he became angry and pushed her out of his way. Complainant stated that she spilled a cup of water on the defendant due to him pushing her. Complainant stated the defendant called her a bitch and then grabbed her by the neck, slammed her head into the concrete floor, causing her to feel pain. Complainant stated that it took 5 or 6 people from the club to get him off of her. Complainant stated defendant broke through the crowd and grabbed her by the neck a second time, causing her to be unable to breathe, and again took several people to get the defendant off of her. Affiant, which is the cop, reviewed pictures that the complainant took of her injuries. Affiant observed the photos to show redness on the chest and lower neck and petechial hemorrhaging in her right eye. Oh my gosh, hold on. That's the first time I read that part. Hemorrhaging in her right eye. Y'all, that's what you see on Dateline when people die of strangulation. You know how hard you have to choke somebody to create petechial hemorrhaging in the eye? And I know I'm mispronouncing it. That's now, mind you, that was before old girl married him. That was before old girl married him. Kia, what is you doing, girl? What is you doing? What is you doing? Yes, background check. Kia needed a background. This is why you have to get a background check. You already know this man has been to prison. Generally, a lot of men who have been to prison for substantial amounts of time have anger issues just from the PTSD of the experience. If there's anybody you need a background check, it's when you decide you want to fall in love with a former prisoner. Please and thank you. You know, I have a background check show every Wednesday. I release background checks. This week it was Thursday because of scheduling. You can click the form if you'd like a free background check. All right. Now here's the arson one. We're going to go over this one together. So remember, he's been indicted for arson, blowing up the bar across the street. He has not been charged at this time. And I want to make this clear. He has not at this time been charged with any type of arson for any of the 2 fires that have happened with the turkey leg hut over the last year. But what I do anticipate is what happens is insurance companies hate paying out money that they cannot be reimbursed for. Hate it. So if you're ever in an arson situation, one of the first things those insurance companies are going to say is, who do you think did this? And you want to run them all of the names, because that way, in the event that they do find that it was intentional, you're still going to get your money. They're just going to ensure criminal charges get pressed against the person so that you don't keep getting your shit set on fire like the turkey leg hut people did. And what really stuck with the turkey leg hut people, remember, I had told you with Bar 5015 that he's indicted for setting on fire. A lot of people thought the owner of Bar 5015 did it himself for insurance reasons during the pandemic. And the truth was, no, that doesn't incentivize him. He just did $1 million rebuild. He may not have even had the proper insurance because the rebuild was so new. But more than that, with the 2 fires at 5015 doesn't own those premises. So there's minimal to gain. They have renter's insurance, if anything. And if you have renter's insurance, it doesn't cover the structure. It just covers paperwork, computers. They're not going to get rich off making a claim for their laptop and their computer screen in the sofa in the office, okay? So anyway, here we go. I'm going to read to you. This is in 2005. He had a felony charge of arson. Let's read the charge. I'm going to read it for you here. It says, probable cause, affiant, which is a cop. Officer John Williams is a sworn and commissioned police officer with the University of Houston Central Campus Police Department. He's duly qualified to determine the origin and cause of fires. Your affiant, which is the cop, has probable cause. You know what? I'm going to switch the view. So if you're watching this on your camera at home, you don't need to see my big head. I want you to be able to see all these little documents. Put my head over to the side. There you go. Here you go. Here you go. Much better. There we go. All right. So we're going to start at this first paragraph. Okay. He's qualified to determine, this police officer is duly qualified to determine the origin and cause of fires. Your affiant, the cop, has probable cause to believe that defendant Lindell Leroy Price did in Harris County, Texas, on or about November 10th of 2005, intentionally and knowingly commit the offense of arson to a motor vehicle located on Calhoun Street by being involved in an incident which initiated a sequence of events causing the damage by fire to a vehicle which was destroyed by igniting a flammable liquid and starting a fire. It said the cop observed surveillance video provided by management at Bayou Oaks apartment. That means he did this to a student, a TSU student, because that's where I was a law professor. TSU is at this address, okay? And University of Houston, correction. That's why it's the University of Houston Police Department that is investigating. It said the vehicle, which showed a vehicle fire occurring November 10th. The vehicle in the video belongs to the complainant, Jeffrey Shallis. The vehicle, a 1997 Nissan Altima, was set on fire and destroyed. Affiant observed the surveillance video showing the fire and observed two unknown males at the scene of the fire. One male started the fire, and the other male was seen driving the vehicle, which they used to flee from the scene. Affiant obtained still photographs from the surveillance video and observed the video closely. The vehicle was unique because it had various aftermarket additions to it, including distinctive rims and a bed cover. Now, you know, he's a car man. He has car shows. He does Rick Ross car shows. He has car shows with Kevin Hart. Aftermarket distinctive rims and a bed cover, it says. Okay, then it says the police Affiant provided the photograph and description of the vehicle to Texas Southern University Police Department. Okay, there we go. As they are near the area where the fire occurred and patrol the area as well. November 19th, an officer with the Texas Southern University Police Department stopped a vehicle matching the description of the vehicle speeding away from the fire. The driver of the vehicle was Terry Gray. Terry Gray told Texas Southern Police Department that the unique vehicle belonged to Lindell Price, the defendant. Terry Gray was asked about the vehicle fire, but did not know anything about it at the time. On November 29th, Affiant spoke to Terry. Affiant believes that Gray his acquaintance, Lindell Leroy Price. Terry Gray also told Affiant the defendant was aware of his being stopped on the 19th. The defendant told Mr. Gray that he knew the stop was because of a fire at the University of Houston. Defendant Lindell Leroy Price was involved in an incident which initiated a sequence of events causing the damage by fire to the aforementioned vehicle, which was destroyed by igniting a flammable liquid and starting a fire. Anyway, so hit that like, guys. We've got over 400 likes. 400 viewing. We've got less than 200 likes. So basically, previously, let me clarify. Previously, he set on fire, I believe it was a woman's car. It was not her, it was her property, but the property being not a house, it was vehicle, because I believe this is the name of like the father or somebody the vehicle's registered under. Either way, he was charged with arson. He was sentenced to 3 years. Of that, I'm not clear how much time that he served for that. For choking out the pregnant girlfriend, he just got probation. He got deferred adjudication, honey. He got deferred adjudication. Okay. He got deferred. He's all right. So this will, if he receives federal time for this, this will be one of the first times that he's truly received time. It'll be the first time he's received time for arson. So we will have to see. This is going to play out. It'll be interesting to see if any of the alleged co-conspirators speak or share anything more. It says, y'all got to know he started taking $100 deposits per person for a reservation in Turkey. He sure did. Somebody said Ginger said they were making Grand Theft Auto. They were making it. Yep. If you wanted a table reservation in order to skip the line, it was for 2 people was $150. And I think what was because people wanted to be able to make a reservation and not have to sit in the line. But the challenge was, so that was going to be a credit to what you spent. But for 2 people, most people are not going to spend like $75 a piece on turkey legs. So the thought was like, how about an amount that's more consistent with what you spend? But they didn't care. They could do it and people would pay it. Somebody said, what did he and her do with them? That's what is to be determined. Here's the problem. When you get the feds in your business, even if it's stuff like arson, then they get to looking up things like, did you pay your taxes? Could we incorporate a wire fraud in here? What other crimes can we incorporate in here? And unfortunately, that sounds like that's what they're going to face. She, the estranged wife, and him. It says some criminals aren't criminal minded. Yes. Somebody said, oh, he was super crazy. Lindell Leroy Price. It says being that big with a high-pitched voice is crazy. Y'all. Yeah, go to his page. You can see him. You can hear him talking there. That voice it'll command your attention, I tell you that. Wow. And she married him. Ladies, we have to do better. Love yourself, know your worth, and add tax. I'm interested in seeing if she tries to reopen some form of the business. I mean, she could do so. She could use the same recipes. People really like the recipes. She could use those recipes. She can call it whatever she wants. If you want to, girl, I'll sell you. I'll license you that trademark, honey. I don't have no problem with that. But we're going to just wait till that bankruptcy is completely over, because you can't buy no new assets, girl. They come for you. We'll work it out. I'm open. I was open to licensing the trademark to him too, but I am scared of him. So my dad said I can't. Anyway, thanks for joining. This is the wrap up. I will be keeping you guys abreast both of what happens with this indictment as well as any findings with regards to the divorce and or the bankruptcy. I'm your legal bestie. Share this with your friends, family, wherever you share your stuff on Instagram, Twitter, etc. Y'all have a great day.